What's going on, Packers fans? Aaron Nagler here, joined by Pack-A-Day podcast creator Andy Herman, ready to talk some football. Andy, week 1 in the books. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I wasn't ready for needing Packers therapy week 1 in. I was hoping that this was going to go a little bit longer, but here we are. We've got lots to talk about. I guess that's good one way or the other.
It's a good way to start as far as having lots to chew on after I'm not even gonna say a bad performance. I'll say a disappointing performance from the Packers on the whole. Down in Brazil, week 1. Clearly, we have to start with Jordan Love, his injury, all the aftermath off of that, right? It's the worst feeling in the world sitting there in Sao Paulo. That game is coming down to that final drive. I'm starting to pack up. We got to get downstairs and talk to Matt LaFleur, etc. Okay, fine. They're going to try to have some kind of miracle comeback, but I'm resigned to, okay, starting the season 0-1, and then absolute disaster strikes. And you see Jordan Love writhing on the ground. I don't know about you. I for sure thought there's the season.
Yeah.
I thought it was over the way he just, the amount of pain he looked to be in. Clearly, as we know now, the Packers are very lucky that he will be back this season.
Yep.
But I do think this is an amazing opportunity for Matt LaFleur to finally win Coach of the Year. Because if they just come out of this stretch, whatever it might end up being, right? I don't know if it's 2, 4, 6 weeks, however long Jordan is out, and they can just stay afloat with Malik Willis as their quarterback, and they end up, like, say, going to the playoffs and doing whatever. How do you not give Matt LaFleur Coach of the Year? That's my upside kind of way to look at this right now.
I was going to say, I love your positivity. When you said like him writhing on the ground and being like, the season's done. My positivity was like, I can't even go there. My mind would literally not let me get over he's done for the year. I couldn't even get there. And I was just like holding out any ounce of hope that maybe, because we've seen some of these, the Patrick Mahomes one from a couple years ago, Aaron Jones last year looked like he was going to be done for the year when he got hurt.
So over.
We've seen a few of these, and I'm just like, I'm not going to jump to any conclusions, but yes, there's of course that lingering feeling in the back of your mind of, that literally could be it. And, even obviously 4 or 6 games is brutal, especially after you start the season 0-1 and had every opportunity to win that game. These are going to matter. They're going to count up. And, the division going 3-0 in the first week, meaning Minnesota, Chicago, Detroit, all getting wins. That certainly doesn't help things either. The NFC did really well against the AFC this week, just packing up wins in the NFC already. So those are things that, of course, are unfortunate, but Green Bay got extremely lucky in the fact that, yes, this was a shorter term injury. It's not going to be half the year, the entire season. They're going to get him back at some point. The entire goal of this year was, again, to be playing your best ball at the end of the year. They're going to have that opportunity, but they are going to have to weather this storm in some capacity. What gives me some confidence here is that I thought Green Bay, there were a billion mistakes in this game, but I thought there were every opportunity that Matt and the coaching staff, for the most part, put the team in good positions to succeed. And it was just like, nope, penalty, nope, drop, nope, bad pass, nope, failed coverage, nope, Quay Walker missing a tackle in the hole. We can go on. But I thought the coaching staff did a good job of getting this team in positions to succeed. That's going to happen again this week, but everyone's going to have to be tuned 10 ounces higher or 10 notches higher going against the Colts with no Jordan Love this week.
Now, talking about Jordan Love, and we've obviously, gone through the process now of thinking it's over and, he's going to be back, etc. I do want to touch on his play in this game because I don't doubt for a moment that there have been, in your mentions, certainly in mine, some overreactions, some possible, aspersions cast, as it were. I don't think he played a great game. In fact, I think it was a pretty milquetoast affair from the Packers' newly minted quarterback. But I will say I didn't find it too surprising, given not just the level of competition. Obviously, the Eagles have a very tough defense, especially up front. But I thought the inconsistencies were things that looked pretty similar to the start of last year. And that's not to excuse it. There's certainly the one throw from Jordan in particular where he skips it off the ground. About 5 feet in front of a wide open Jaden Reed. That's a mystifying moment, right?
Yep.
But it was interesting to me going back and watching it, is the more you saw him take less time, the better it seemed, it's a weird way of saying, like, when he was throwing in rhythm, he looked really good. He looked like
Yep.
the Jordan Love at the end of last season that we were all hoping would hit the ground running the start of this year. But it did seem that if that initial read wasn't there, it got problematic for him. And that's not to say that, you definitely tip your cap to the Eagles and things they did, but it just seemed like he was trying to make a play way more than just run the offense, right? And I think that's what you saw last year, like as far as the beginning of the season really rough, and then as the season progressed, he got much better and much more in tune with what they were doing offensively, game plan wise, rhythm of the offense and things of that nature. I would love to know your takeaway watching the game back, because I know in the moment I was like, oh, there's some good plays, but wow, he's missing a lot of throws. But going back and watching it, I was like, that looks like Jordan Love to me. And yes, we want him to be much more efficient. But I don't think anybody should have expected him to come out and just be that guy again. It's going to take some time to rev up to it, I think.
It's going to take some time. I think there's a physical side of this. And I think there's a mental side of this. From a mental standpoint, one of my questions coming in is, you get made the highest paid quarterback, the highest paid player in all the NFL. How much do you want to go out and prove everyone, look at all the incredible stuff I can do and look at all the throws I can make? And I thought when I went back and watched all of his throws from last year during the offseason, when I thought this offense really started clicking was, to your exact point, when he was getting the ball out of his hands in rhythm and letting all of these incredible playmakers do a lot of the heavy lifting. And that's, I think we get the game manager moniker of like, oh my goodness, that's a negative thing. In the scheme of an offense, if you're running it that way, that's the way it's supposed to be run. And then, his little, the Jared Cook play that he ran at the end of the game where he's doing a jumping throw to Jaden Reed. When you need that, he has that. He can give you that in those moments. So like, only put on the superhero cape when you need it. And the rest of the time, I kind of want you to be a little bit more Clark Kent and just kind of run the way it's supposed to be run. And right. I think in this game, maybe there was a little bit in the back of his mind of, all right, I got to go out and show what I'm capable of. And I was just kind of wondering that. And I hope, once he gets back, especially maybe with a little bit of the injury concerns, maybe he just does run the offense a little bit more. And I think that can be beneficial. From a physical standpoint, I wonder two things and how much it played a part. One, the footing, of course, for everyone. There was the early play where he slipped. Right. He throws the play to the right, which was almost a pick six on the swing pass to Josh Jacobs. And it just didn't feel like he really felt super confident, maybe getting back and planting. And it's just like, I'm just going to arm throw this thing for a huge chunk of it. We saw some fadeaways. We saw it. And I wonder how much that played a part. And then, of course, the cramping as well. Wondering if he was just cramping to the point of, again, where I'm going to trust my upper body because I know I can get the ball where I need to.
I think there was a lot to that.
Yeah, I think
definitely
so
do. Because how many times have we heard Rodgers say you throw from your feet, right?
Yes.
The best quarterbacks, you want to throw from your feet.
Yep.
And to your point, it really felt like he was not trusting that at all.
No, not at all. And I can understand. You go back to plant the one and you remember that play last year where he like got it on the throwback and he did like the splits and he tried to throw. It was just like almost like he didn't trust it from that point forward. So I'm interested to see when he comes back from injury, if maybe some of that stuff cleans itself up naturally. It's week one. But yes, I mentioned yesterday to Nate and Tyler when I was talking to him of just, I was hoping for a little bit more from a fundamental standpoint of, did you get a couple of those things cleaned up and some of the layups just become more automatic for him in year two as a starter?
It's so funny you say the layup thing. I said exactly that in the press area during the game. I think to Ryan Wood, who was sitting to my left, I said, it's just bizarre to me that this guy who we've seen make the most incredible plays on a football field just is good for one or two layups or bunnies that he completely whiffs on almost every game. It's just bizarre to me because he can do it. We've seen him do it, but yeah, that to me was the thing where I did feel like when he was in rhythm, it was really good. It just, he needed to be in rhythm a whole hell of a lot more. And to your point, maybe the field and what he was dealing with as far as his legs and all of that kind of probably plays into it, because you're right. He was throwing way too much, I would say, with his kind of arm talent and trying to torque his, body rather than trusting his feet and throwing from the ground up. One thing that undoubtedly impacts that as well is the offensive line, right? And the play, or the good or bad play, either way you look at it. Up front, I know a lot's been made about the right guard position. They certainly were kind of going in and out there between Sean Ryan and Jordan Morgan, who, with Jordan Morgan, I was pleasantly surprised. I thought, given how much time he missed due to the shoulder injury this summer, the way he came in there and battled against a really good defensive front, I was pretty impressed with his play.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. I actually did a little short video today of where I like 3 changes I'd like to see Green Bay make. And I already said, like, I think it's just time to start, going more to Jordan Morgan. And wasn't necessarily that Sean Ryan was bad, but it already felt like Jordan Morgan was in the conversation of as good, if maybe not a tick better than Sean Ryan, if that's the case right now in his first start. And I think there's more upside there. He spent a first round pick on him. Just like, all right, now what are you waiting for? And maybe that it was like probably 70-30 this game for Sean Ryan. Maybe the next game is 50-50. And then maybe just Jordan takes it over from there. But I was really pleased overall with what he put on tape. And I think it's only going to get better from here. There's the one play where he kind of got pushed into Jordan a little bit, but that's going to happen from time to time. And I thought overall it was a very successful rookie week for Jordan Morgan. And then I thought Elton was fantastic at left guard. Zach Tom pitched a shutout from a pass pro standpoint at right tackle. Josh Myers at his sort of usual, some really good plays, and then some ones that you'd like to have back. And then Rashid just had a really tough game, and I think he'll bounce back from that. But after I thought a really great camp and a great end of last year and a lot of buzz kind of surrounding him, a little bit of a disappointing first performance from Rashid.
The Josh Myers thing was interesting too, because yes, absolutely inconsistent, very Josh Myers like day at the office, but I do forgive him a little bit. I give him some grace just because of the level of competition. Those are probably the two of the best defensive tackles he'll face all year, right? And those guys are going to make a lot of people look silly, and that's not to excuse it. You still got to execute, etc. But it was funny, lost in the aftermath of the Jordan Love injury is the fact that Myers was on the ground writhing, like in pain as well. And legit, I don't think anybody talked about it that night. I know I think I mentioned it once in my live chat, and then like the next day it was like, oh yeah, what is Myers okay? And it sounds like he will be. I don't know if he was cramping, etc. But it was I felt bad almost, because it's like if Jordan had been fine in that play and Myers was down, that would have been such a huge talking point. But because Jordan went down on the same play, nobody mentioned it. It just didn't get talked about.
It was funny too, because after the game, I talked about it ever so briefly, and then I was thinking of like who played at center and left, and like it was Elton. No, I know, I saw it later, but it was Elton at center, and then it was Sean Ryan at left guard with Morgan at right guard. But I could not have told you at all who was in there, like what, because obviously all focus was on Jordan. And then of course, what was Malik going to do in that crazy situation? So yeah, I had no idea, but then finally saw it on tape. But yeah, thankfully he's going to be okay. I've been one of the ones where I've felt like Josh needs more competition over the last couple of years, and I'd like to see him get pushed a little bit more. But even for this not being necessarily a great game for Josh, I went back, if I watched and felt like this is a totally normal starting center game. There was nothing egregious there. Still his checks and stuff at the line of scrimmage, and his communication with Jordan is extremely valuable, and seems going to be more valuable now with Malik Willis back there. So I don't think there's any chance that there's any real competition for that spot anytime in the near future.
And then heading out from the O-line to inline, I guess, you talk about the tight ends. Tucker Kraft. Did we all miss a memo? Like, Tucker Kraft is tight end 1. It sure looks like. I mean, he played, I think, not every offensive snap, but most of them.
Most. It was like 3 or 4 maybe that he missed, yeah.
And he played well. There was the one play in particular where Jordan had a kind of a play action, but it was a quick kind of pop up to Tucker coming over the middle of the field. When he took that thing up the left sideline, he just looks so dynamic. And the fact that he's still dealing with an injury, he's coming off that back issue that popped up that week before they went to Brazil, or the day before they went to Brazil. He looks so good. I was not shocked, but given that he had missed most of the offseason or all of the offseason program with the biceps injury, and then now he's dealing with his back injury, he still, I thought, played a hell of a game.
Yeah, he was my third highest graded player on offense. I've been a huge Tucker Kraft guy. I thought the second half of last year was just almost unfathomable how much better he was from when he came into camp and rookie minicamp and OTAs last year to end of year was, I think, the biggest improvement that anyone made through the course of the season on the roster. You on top of that, go to a situation where you mentioned now he's had a couple of the injuries in camp though, and you're not exactly sure of what that's going to mean for him. Is he even going to play in the game? He's active. And then I may have been the most that's been like, I think Tucker Kraft's going to end up as tight end number 1, and never in a million years would I expected a discrepancy of like 64 snaps to 17 for Kraft to Musgrave. And I thought we were going to see a lot more 2 tight end sets. I thought we'd see those guys kind of in and out of the lineup. I would expected, if there was 81 snaps there, I probably would have said 41-40 for one guy or the other. And I was very surprised with the discrepancy and the fact that Ben Sims only played 1 play, and that was the 2-point conversion play. So I thought we were going to see a lot more tight ends and those guys rotating in and out more. And it was just, nope, Tucker Kraft's the guy. We're going to play a lot of 11. And that was that. And they were overall successful up until the red zone, where they really struggled through the course of the game.
Let's talk about that. The red zone. It was shocking to me because Matt talked about this in the postgame, like how effective they were last year. I mean, they were historically good at, especially goal-to-go situations in 2023. I just didn't understand most of the calls. And that's why I asked Matt afterwards, like, were they doing anything that you weren't expecting? Because some of the route concepts, if you want to call it that, were legit just guys drifting into the end zone.
Yeah.
Like, there was no route combination that I could really kind of surmise meant, okay, we're working this, or we're going to try and like get them to bite on this to got this guy open. It was just it was almost Mike McCarthy-esque in guys just wandering into the end zone. I don't know, man. That to me was one of the more shocking kind of things to go back and look at, because I thought, okay, maybe in the moment I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'm being harsh, but looking at the tape, I'm like, I just didn't understand most of what they were trying to do in the red area.
There was a lack of creativity. I think that they ran it once for sure. It may have been twice, where they love that play in the back of the end zone where the wide receivers cross.
Yep.
And
they ran it twice.
They've had a lot of success in that in the past. And man, was Philly ready for that play? Like they had it scouted perfectly. It's obviously a play that Green Bay's run well previously, and they were 1,000,000% ready for it. And then even just like the 2-point conversion play where you have it on the 1 yard line, and it's just like,
what is that call?
Dive, like
what is that call?
Like,
after Josh Jacobs has done absolutely nothing against that front for the entirety of the game up to that point. And then to get the opportunity at a 2-point, okay, great. But to your point, get creative. The idea that, we're just going to button it up and we're going to run off tackle, I guess, off the left side. What on you talk about not coaching the team you have? That to me, that was my least. I think I tweeted, I could not hate that call more. Like I hate it with the power of 1,000 suns. I just didn't understand.
Yeah, so I think if there's one thing, and Matt knew it right after or at the press conference. Obviously, we were there, just saying like the red zone is where they got beat. And the more I watched it, man, the offense looked like a Matt LaFleur offense. They were getting looks that they liked. They were finding mismatches. There were players open. They ran the ball well, especially after the little bit of shaky start from not just Jacobs, but the offensive line in general. Exactly. And then they really got everything that they wanted up until the point where they were in the red zone. You got first and goal from the 3. The 2 early drives that end both in field goals. The drive that they got further and had to settle for the 45-yard field goal attempt that was missed. It was just they had a lot of opportunities up in Philadelphia's area of the field and just could not convert. And that's where I think, again, they just needed a different game plan, different creativity, and maybe just some different play calls.
I will say we're talking a lot about the negatives, etc., and that's I guess human nature. But I do want to. How can you talk about this game without talking about Jaden Reed?
So good.
What a weapon! Oh my goodness, the ability to get his foot in the ground and get upfield around the corner on that end around. He goes into a kind of a mass of humanity, like a vortex of 4 Philadelphia Eagles defenders, and comes out unscathed and goes into the end zone for a touchdown. I mean, it just really underlines how valuable he can be from a number of different places. That's the other thing. Like when I saw it live, when he had the touchdown reception, I thought he was the one who went in motion. So I'm like, oh, they're freeing him up, etc. No, that's Watson that goes in motion and then goes up the left sideline. Reed's like just working from the slot, does the over route. I love the design of that play. They have Tucker release late into the flat to occupy the corner. Reed's got all sorts of grass to run into. I mean, this kid, first game, second season, you can already tell he is ready to be a superstar in this league. That's what I think.
No question about it. I thought the telling one too was on the reverse, where Zach Bond, who had 1,000 tackles in this game, gets him like right in the middle. He grabs him, and Reed just shakes him off, not even there, like just not even remotely going down. And then so the body control there to shake off a linebacker who was tearing it up that game. and then the body control later on a field that is ice skating rink, basically. Like, so to go up the field there and then to be able to cut on a dime, so Chauncey Gardner just goes flying past him and then just continue up the field, was unbelievable. I mean, he had obviously the play too, where it was 12 men on the field for both sides. He has the incredible play there where he shakes another guy, makes the guy miss, and goes into a touchdown. That's not his fault. There were 12 guys on the field. If you would have counted that one, if it actually would have been in the scheme of play, his day would have been 6 touches for 209 yards and 3 touchdowns. 6 for 209 and 3 touchdowns. Add in the Love missed throw at his feet.
Right, at his feet.
And again, there's obviously a butterfly effect of who knows what happens afterwards. But if you put all that together, like this could have been like a 7-touch, like 240-yard, 3 touchdown day for Jaden Reed. It was like just this close to missing on that. He was unfreaking believable.
Yeah, I'm just so excited. And look, when you're talking about heading into this game against the Colts, right? I'm really fascinated to see how they lean on Reed, because I think they're going to have to. He has to be the focal point of the offense, right? As opposed to everyone's talking about, or will probably talk about, oh, you got to run the ball, Josh Jacobs. And I agree, obviously, that's part of it. But I think how many different ways can you utilize Jaden Reed in this game to take pressure off of Malik Willis? I think that's the big task for Matt and his offensive staff this week. I don't think there's any doubt there. But before we get to the Colts game, I do want to look at the other side of the ball. Andy, I will say, my co-founder here at Cheesehead TV, Corey Banky, incorrectly predicted that I would be upset with or done with or be bemoaning the defense by, I believe he said, by the third quarter. And that was not the case. I was very even-keeled. I was very much like, okay, this is kind of what I expected as far as, it's never going to be the, quote, big aggressive defense that I think some Packers fans maybe had in their mind. I wasn't even that surprised that they didn't play, more man than zone. I think the zone makes a ton of sense when you're going against a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, a guy who can really kill you with his legs when he gets outside the pocket. So you want vision on the quarterback.
Yeah.
Understood all that. Tons of cover 3, understand all that. My biggest disappointment looking at the defense, and this, again, kind of reinforced after I went back and watched it, because, again, I don't want to, okay, I watch it live and you think one thing and then you look at it and maybe it's totally different.
Right.
But it kind of just reinforced what I was thinking, which was all summer long, from the moment Hafley was hired, every opportunity he had talking to a microphone, every opportunity Matt and Brian were given to talk about him into microphones, we heard the mantra, the repeated mantra of play style. How it wasn't about this, it wasn't about that, it was about play style. It's about a different play style. Andy, I'm here to tell you, I didn't see a different play style. I saw the exact same play style we've seen in Green Bay on the defensive side of the ball for the last decade. I saw a lot of good athletes, some guys who can't tackle, a lot of passiveness, and I certainly didn't see 11 hats to the ball each and every down.
I thought early on in mini camp, in the first week of training camp, before pads came on, actually, I thought there was a noticeable difference in intensity and energy in the defense. Mm-hmm. And pretty much by about, again, maybe the week the pads came out or maybe a week after that, it almost felt like the excitement of the defense and everything had already dissipated. And we didn't see it necessarily in camp from that point on. We didn't really see it in preseason. And yeah, I thought a little bit in that final preseason game where Anthony Johnson Jr. was hitting everything known to man in that game. You saw a little bit of it, but for the most part, it didn't really carry over, and was kind of like keeping it in the back of my head a little bit. I'm like, well, let's just see what it looks like when week 1 comes along,
right?
And when it's live and when the starters are out there, then maybe we'll see it. But we really didn't see it. And to Kenny Clark's point, to your point, they were very clearly trying to make it so that Jalen Hurts had to beat him with his arm and not with his legs. And they overall succeeded in the latter part. He did not beat them with his legs at all. They kept him in check running completely. But I think one of the costs of that was this was a defense that was, again, playing a little bit more passive in this game. They were not having that intensity, and it just led to a substandard product on the field. To your point, it felt like a lot of the other Packers defenses that we've seen in the past. And hopefully they can get that figured out and corrected. As I kind of tweeted out, like, this is not going to be the defining, chapter of Jeff Hafley. There's a long way to go, but it was definitely a level of disappointing and just underwhelming from week 1.
I will say the play of Edan Cooper was really kind of a welcome surprise.
Yep.
I'll underline it there. I thought how much time he missed this summer. I mean, he was out way early in camp. We didn't see him in any team action. I don't think that I can recall
Yeah.
outside of that first kind of couple days, right? To have him come out and play as many snaps as he did in this game and pop the way he did. And then Matt mentioned there was a critical error on his part. He's a rookie playing in his first NFL game. Again, hadn't played much, if any, teams all summer long. So I can't say I'm too surprised by that.
Right.
But man, you talk about a guy popping off the tape, a guy whose explosiveness and athleticism and physicality, that we need more of that, because that was promising. And I thought for a guy out there basically playing like with his hair on fire, not really knowing what assignments are, man, that was some really promising stuff, I thought.
Yeah, that was, I talked about the three changes I would make. One was on Jordan Morgan on the offensive side of the ball. Number two was we need more Edan Cooper on the defensive side of the ball. And that doesn't mean he's got to play 60, 70 snaps this week. I can understand that this is still a young player that's learning the ins and outs of this defense. But, the guy like Anthony Richardson on the field, Jordan Taylor on the field, you've got some big time athletes at the quarterback and running back position. And I can imagine having a super athlete like Edan Cooper at linebacker can only help in a lot of those scenarios. And yeah, you might need to give him a little bit of a help and, maybe not make it super complex for him as much as you possibly can, but just let that dude run and make plays. And in the very limited amount of time, there was a tangible difference of how that defense felt when he was on the field.
Were you surprised at the lack of a rotation at the safety position? I understand Bullard being the guy, quote unquote, across from McKinney.
Yep.
Makes all the sense in the world, but not getting Evan Williams on the field at all, that surprised me.
I expected about 15 to 20 snaps for Jordan Morgan to get him acclimated. I expected about 15-ish snaps for Edan Cooper to get him acclimated. And I very much expected about 15 to 20 snaps for Evan Williams, and maybe just even to get Javon Bullard a little bit of a rest. So he doesn't have to play 60, 70 snaps in that first game. Even if you don't want to maybe put him in the slot, like maybe just, so he has a few moments to get some coaching into him and things like that. So I was very surprised that we did not see more Evan Williams. I just thought like he showed up to be enough of a playmaker in preseason and training camp and everything of like, you got to find a way to get that kid on the field somehow. And I was very surprised that was a goose egg for him in the snap counts.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up too, because looking at, the play, both sides of the ball, really. And I know, again, I talk a lot of the kind of negatives that you take away from a game. There were certainly positives. You certainly saw the Edan Cooper plays. I thought Keyshawn Nixon's sack was an amazing play when he absolutely triggers from depth to get that sack and basically knock them back, from any real possible contention for a touchdown there at the end of the first half. There were a lot of positives, right? But man, the more I looked at the game the other day, I kept thinking, and I think I tweeted this out. They absolutely needed better from all of their top money guys. Like if you're counting over $10 million on the cap, of which there's a handful of guys, right? The Kenny Clarks, Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary's, Jair Alexander. Those guys, of every guy who counts more than $10 million over the cap in 2024, I thought Elton Jenkins was the only one who could really positively say, I had a really good game.
Yeah.
And that's not to say they didn't do good things, because they did, absolutely. But man, these are the guys who have to carry your team, who have to show up. And yes, the Eagles are good. You're supposed to be good. That to me was the most kind of disappointing aspect of the game, where I understand they didn't play all preseason. I understand they're probably, dealing with some conditioning stuff. Like I get all that. But man, this is week one. Now it's time to roll. You're supposed to be showing up. And for the most part, I don't think many of those guys did.
Aaron, it does not matter if you have Bill Belichick as defensive coordinator, you and I as defensive coordinator, or anything in between those two extremes. If your playmakers do not go out and make plays on the defensive side of the ball, you're going to be in for a long day. And they needed more from, I thought McKinney played pretty well overall, but they needed more from Jair. They need more from Preston, Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark, all those guys. That is going to have to be something that they figure out and unlock those guys in some capacity, because if that's what you get week in and week out, this is going to be a team that allows a decent chunk of points. And we're going to be very frustrated once again with the overall state of this defense.
Yeah, no question about it. All right. I don't want to go too much into the Colts game, because you and I will be talking about it later this week.
Love it.
Nice tease there. But I do want to ask you, watching, I don't know how much of the Colts game you got to see against the Texans, but watching it this morning, I'm thinking, man, it's nice and all to get an idea of what the Colts are about, but like especially on defense, because that will be the narrative here this week is how the Packers offense operates with Malik Willis at quarterback, etc. It's hard to take much away from that Colts game when you know that defense was absolutely petrified of CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's no way they approached this game the way they approached that game. But that said, I think this is a really good opportunity for the Packers to right the ship. I don't think this is a game that's unwinnable with Willis at quarterback. I don't doubt for a moment that it will be a close game, much as I would prefer otherwise. But this is a winnable football game for the Packers, even with Malik Willis at quarterback.
I think so too. It's a home opener. You got to find a way to win. Green Bay will probably pull out all the stops. Yes, there's probably going to be an extra safety in the box against Malik Willis than there was against CJ Stroud, but Malik Willis also brings a running element to the table as well that he can take off at any time. So you're just going to have to kind of play with it a little bit. I have faith that Matt LaFleur and this coaching staff can figure out ways to put him in positions to succeed. And then just defense, special teams. You can't leave points on the field. Green Bay left far too many points on the field against Philly. And if that happens against Indy, you're just not going to win that game. They got to take advantage of every opportunity they get, be better in the red zone, make your 45-yard field goals when you have the opportunity. Don't, miss 2-point conversion plays or take the extra points off the board. Every one of those points is going to matter. And they're just going to have to sort of engineer this to make it that you just have at least one more point at the end of this thing and figure out a way to win.
Can't wait. So excited to see Packers football back in Lambeau Field on Sunday and really erase the taste of this week 1 loss, wash it away and put it away and never speak of it again. So ready. Andy, thank you so much for the time. As always, make sure you check out Andy's work at Pack a Day Podcast. Andy, thanks so much, man.
Appreciate it, man. Talk to you soon.